So hey guys, welcome to a new video of this channel. So I am here to teach you about the match play, and I'm a bit late on that because these are the one of the most important things to learn in tennis before you actually pick up a racket. But I'm teaching you this a bit late, but it's fine really because as you play, you'll get to know more about how tennis works. So I'm here to cover the basics like the point system, how the balls are placed in the court, the areas of the court, the lines of the court, so that you understand every jargon said by a tennis player or a fellow friend. So let's get started on the areas of the tennis court. So where you would start from the service box, because knowing that service is one of the crucial parts of the game to starting a match, service box it is. So really, you if you might have paid attention in the last video, I have mentioned where you serve, which is the diagonal service box. So for example, I am serving from here and my opponent is right I would say right here. So I would be serving from here to here that the ball reaches to him. So would you understand if I said it like that? So in order to serve, your serve must be in the service box, or else it will be counted as a fault or an out. So moving on to the second part, uh, this is this has multiple names, I would say, since I have been learning tennis. So it's either called the gallery, or even it is called the alley. So it has two names really. You can call it anything. So any of these two, not anything, man. Come on. So this is called the gallery or the alley. So you can understand by the name itself. It's a little hallway, which is an extension of the tennis court when you play doubles. So the importance of this part is when you play doubles, you can hit the ball in this area and this area of the court. So these two parts are the galleries where you can hit the ball on these sides too. But whereas when you're playing singles, you're only allowed to hit the ball in these places inside this box. So this is a bit of a common sense in terms of tennis, but then you have to learn this before you play, or else we don't want you hitting outs during doubles or even singles. So moving on to the second part, um these this is called the no man's land. So the reason it is called the no man's land is because this is one of the most riskiest positions to be in when you're playing a match. As when you are playing at this position, your opponent can blast the shot right around you or even across anywhere. So even if they're standing at a volley, so at a volley, so they can hit it anywhere from a drop to anywhere where you will not be able to reach the ball. Okay, so now moving on from the no man's land to the baseline. So it is also a name of a line, and it's an area where you usually play tennis in this uh, today. So this area is called the baseline or behind the baseline, where this is where you usually play your forehands and backhands. So what you usually do is that after serving you come back to this place and you are supposed to hit your forehands and backhands here, whereas your volley is supposed to be hit here. So in terms of shot placement, this is where you're supposed to hit your volleys and your forehands and backhands. Let me just type it out. It's writing is kind of hard, you know. So forehands and backhands. So these are usually the places where you play your usual shots or strokes. Okay, now to moving on to the lines. So this is again one of the most crucial parts because this is a heavy confusion between a lot of newbies in terms of tennis jargons. So lines are pretty basic to know, where this is called the line in the center which divides the two service boxes is called the center line. Pretty simple to understand, there's nothing complex here because simply it's in the center. Where there's also a mark right in front of the center line which does not divide the the no man's land, but right here, so it helps you know where you're serving from. So let me just add that little small line. Give me 2 seconds. So it's usually from the center of the court. It's usually from the center of the court in coordination with the center line. So this part is called the center mark. Again, simply it's in the center. So it actually makes sense. Okay, so the purpose of the center mark is to divide the two courts of serving, where you can also call it another area which I actually kind of missed, but then no worries, I'm actually picking it up right now. So this part of the court is also called the deuce court, where the game starts from, or the starting serve is. So this is the deuce court because it is known that every deuce happens on this court, whether because a deuce is basically a 40 all. So now when I tell you a 40 all, so I'll be moving on to the point system sooner or later, which you will be able to understand the logic behind the deuce court, and we are able to understand what is a deuce. So if you go to the other side, which is right beside the deuce court, it's called the advantage court. So let me give you a little backstory. So when you win a deuce is always first to 2 points, where you always win 1 point. So you're 1.2 winning, which is either a game point or a match point, or even you could say championship point in terms of professional tournaments. So this is where you actually have an advantage, because an advantage being you are 1 point away from winning the whole game or a match, whereas the opponent of yours still has to win 2 points. So that is the advantage you will actually kind of get. So you would understand both of these sooner or later in the video, and where else I'll be now covering the other lines, which are the inner side line, the outer side line, and the service line. So let me start with the service line. The service line is also another word for the center line, where it divides the service boxes. And also there's the line which makes it T for this line is also called the service line, where even if you hit a serve on that line, it's called in. So I'm not sure why is it called a service line, but this is another line of the tennis court. So this is the service line. Where you can actually also ignore the part where this is called the service line, because I don't want to confuse you. So let me reiterate again. This is called the center line, and this is called the service line. Which is actually a common line between the two service boxes, and where you can also hit a serve. So when you're hitting a serve, you can hit it here, or even on the line, or on this part of the line, or this part of the line. So that's one thing. Moving on to the inner side line. The inner side line is the first line which divides the single court and the double court. So I would say the singles line, but um, the inner side line. So the inner side line divides the court, the singles court from the doubles gallery, and it also is another version of telling you if the ball is out or not. Because if this line would not be present, then it would be hard for you to judge if it's in or out, or even the doubles court could be the singles court and the doubles court at the same time. So now moving on to the double side line, or the outer side line. So it is, I'm sorry about that. So it is also another word, a double side line or the inner side line, where it is a mark for double, where it is a mark for double matches specifically, that if the ball is going out, because if it's out of this line, then it's out. If it's in this line, then it's in, because as I said before, the gallery and the alley is an extension from the singles court to the doubles court. Okay, now to moving on to the point system. So now where you'll be finally able to understand the logic behind the advantage court and the deuce court. So a point system usually starts by 4 points, which make up a game, so which equal to one game. Alright, and these 4 points have these certain values you have to get. So it's not 15 points you have to win, it's just named 15, 30, 40, and the point after 40 you win one game. So it's not really defined in the scoring system. So this is the winning point. The moment you get this point, you win one game. Alright, so 4 points, a total of 4 points, first to 4 points makes one game. Alright, but what if in case it's 40 all, as this is the point before you win? So when it's a 40 all, 40 all, you can call it a deuce. So if you heard me mentioning a deuce code, so deuce is a tiebreaker between the two players of first to 2 points. So this is um, basically a tiebreaker which leads to first to 2 points, and if you win both the points, you will win one game. First to 2 points. So instead of winning one more point, you have to win two more points. So when you are 1 point ahead, 1 point ahead, or one point behind the winning point or the game point, or let's say you are at the game point, because 40 is also considered as a game point because it's the point you win before winning a game. So you could say point behind winning the game. Or it can also be game point, as I just mentioned, or even a match point. So this basically means that if you have a deuce and you have already won 1 point and you're 1 point ahead or 1 point behind from winning the final point of the game, meaning the final point as in winning the point or winning the game, I would say. So 1 point ahead is of the opponent. I know this seems a bit confusing, but this will all make sense when you start playing tennis. So 1 point behind from winning a game. So this has to go from winning the game. So right here. And a game point or match point, another word for this. Alright. So when you are in a situation like that, all of this has one simple word called advantage. So advantage in itself means that you are at a 1 point advantage from winning a game. So advantage can also be counted as game point or match point, where it is usually still counted as an advantage because it is an advantage of a point you have over the opponent. Alright. So now let me tell you what 6 games make. So 6 games make one set. So 4 points makes one game and 6 games makes one set. Alright, this is not that hard to understand, where four of these makes one of these, and 6 of these, meaning 6 of the games, makes one of these. Alright? And if given in a professional match or a championship you're playing or a tournament you're playing, it is usually first to one set or first to 2 sets or even first to 3 sets. So it really goes maximum to 3 sets, because in terms of speaking, if you're talking about the ATP tour where world ranked or world class players play right now in tennis, the ATP tour or even the Grand Slams. The Grand Slams are basically the 4 biggest tournaments and the most high paying tournaments for tennis players to win. So they usually have uh, a winning point, the match format to first to three sets in men's singles, and first to two sets in women's singles. All right. So this is basically an example, I would say, for you to know how it is actually in the tournaments. But let me tell you how it already goes, and I'm reiterating it again, that 4 points make one game, and six games makes one set. And in tournaments, it is known that you have to win in professional tournaments, not an not a normal tournament that you play, but professional tournaments like the world class players like the ATP Tour and the Grand Slams, you have to win three sets to win the whole match. Whereas in one normal tournament, if I would go for a tournament, it would be first to one set or first to two sets, depending on the age category. Alright? Okay, guys. So, this is the whole overview of what we have learned today. And I would like to thank you to following me and all. And I would say like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching. Stay tuned to have few more videos on the line. Thank you guys.